Hello and welcome. My name is John Cochrane. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this online intelligence briefing focusing on Iran's next leader. Today, Firas Abiali, who is head of the Middle East and North Africa section in IHS Country Risk, and Nazanin Soroush, who is the Iran analyst, will be speaking on Iran's next leader, the succession to Khamenei.
Who is Khamenei? He was chosen as the successor to the founder of Islamic Republic in 1989. What he's done basically, he's forged a new balance of power in Iran, where there's the IRGC playing a main role, there's the hardline clerical faction, and then there are these moderate conservatives. And these are the three factions running alongside his own personal network that basically comprise the entirety of, pretty much the entirety of the political landscape in Iran. And this is the status quo, and it has resulted in the policies that we see today. What's important to keep in mind when it comes to Iran is that there is an inherent contradiction in the foundation of the very Islamic Republic, the very government. The best representation of this is in the name itself. It is the Islamic Republic of Iran. It has the Islamist components where there is a role for the clergy to play, and there is this legitimization that is endowed by the role of this clergy and Islam in the government. There is a very heavy nationalist component that is represented by the name Iran, and this has this pride of the ancient civilization, Persian aspect of the country. And then there is the Republican component, where there are elements of popular sovereignty and popularly mandated sort of policy, and that's represented in some of the democratic institutions, such as the parliament. One other important factor to keep in mind as well is that the reformists, the guys who are more on the nationalist, democratic, and pro-market side of things, they're pretty much essentially pushed out of the political spectrum, and so they are not going to play into this succession going forward. So there are four different factions who will be deciding, who will be playing a key role in the succession of Khamenei. The first one is Khamenei's own network, which we talked about, and what they want is to preserve the status quo that Khamenei has created over the past 26 years. Then there are the hardline conservatives, and these guys are the clerical, mostly in the clerical establishment, and what they want is to emphasize this pan-Islamist identity of Iran and reaching out and wanting Iran to be the leader of the Islamic world, and they want to undermine this Persian aspect, the nationalist aspect of Iran. So discussing the supreme leader and his balancing role, and that's what an ideal candidate would look like when it comes to the succession. So his role can be best understood as a balancer. He's not a ruler. The process is a bit more dynamic. His job is to basically maneuver and negotiate between these different factions and try to build consensus. If he can't build consensus, he needs to be powerful enough to make the final decision and have the rest comply with him. So the key variable here is the alliances forming between these factions. And the most likely scenario is that these factions come together for a compromise candidate, and the probability is the highest here. The thing to keep in mind here is that none of these factions are powerful enough to impose their will on each other, and so it's more likely that they will agree on a candidate that is acceptable to all four groups. And this will be a scenario where we see a continuity of the current balance of power within Iran, and so this will have the least risk to the stability of the system and to stability of Iran. What this means for foreign investors is that these guys, the hardliners, are wary of foreign influence, foreign cultural influence in particular, in Iran, and they have their own economic interests. And what we're more likely to see in this scenario is that we will see is a preferential treatment of those foreign investors that are affiliated with the hardliners' economic domestic partners. And so that's something to keep in mind. The regulatory environment will probably be shaped in that direction.
Thanks very much, Nazanin. As Nazanin explained, there's a broad set of political currents in Iran. The exact selection of a supreme leader will depend on what alliances these broad currents end up forming. But irrespective of that, any future supreme leader is going to have to face a set of challenges that are quite similar to one another, and that are quite similar across all candidates and that compromise political stability in the perhaps 5 to 7 year outlook. Firstly, Iran has significant economic problems, partly because of sanctions. We see regularly strikes in the mining sector because people aren't getting paid. Government employees and contractors regularly go on strike demanding better conditions, demanding better pay. The bureaucracy is quite bloated. Regulation is inadequate and outdated. So this is going to be an area where any future government of Iran is going to have to make significant efforts. In addition, economically, the Iranian economy, as Nazanin mentioned, is dominated by two major actors. These are the IRGC and, secondly, the Bunyads, the religious charities that control up to 30% of the economy. Any supreme leader is going to struggle to find a bigger role for the private sector, which the public probably expects, given that the nuclear deal has now been sealed. A future leader will find themselves in a position where they have to balance the influence of foreign investment on the culture of Iran with the cultural objectives of the Islamic part of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The flow of foreigners and of foreign investment is likely to have a disruptive effect on society and on social norms. The IRGC and the religious conservatives will do their best to maintain their control of the social space and to enforce the correct religious and social norms, while this will be increasingly challenged by Iran's young population, which is going to have much more access to Western culture. Iran is in a position where it has now to maintain an institutional relationship with the United States and with the West as part of the P5+1 agreement. This agreement with the United States compromises the religious legitimacy of the Islamic Republic, which very largely defined itself in a narrative of mustakbirin versus mustad'afin, the mustakbirin being the supposedly arrogant powers of the West, chief amongst them the great Satan, the United States, and the mustad'afin being the weaker peoples of the world, which Iran claims to lead. Now that this narrative is far less valid in the context of an agreement, new sources of legitimacy for the Islamic component of the Republic of Iran will need to be found.